Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the corruption system now that we're far into patch 8.3 and kind of know how it played out. I'm going to kind of give my thoughts on it, fail, pass kind of thing, and just generally how I feel about it. A little bit of shop cleaning first. Towards the beginning of patches, I tend to post mostly videos of like our kills for our guild, and then maybe just some new content stuff. I do try to do a Ret Paladin DPS guide as well, but I don't put out opinion pieces as much, or just talking about interesting things that are happening in the game as much. It's not out of choice necessarily. It's just with rendering video times and stuff like that, it's hard to put out more than 3 or 4 videos a week usually. So I'm trying to be better about that, but yeah, just wanted to say that first. I will be getting more into other videos other than just boss kills and stuff like that. But I do find like the 5 mask runs and stuff, especially just posting one of them, to be a fairly interesting video as well. So let's go ahead and talk about corruption system. 8.3's change to the Titan forging / war forging system. I was all for it because my gear basically never Titan forged. And I'm trying to be open about this as well because I haven't had the best luck with corruption. So I'm trying to see both sides of it. That's what I typically do. It's not the most popular thing to do. It's better just to take like an aggressive stand on one side or the other and just kind of like build an army that way. But whatever. I don't care if I'm popular, I suppose. I'm trying to see both sides. I really am. So for Ret Paladin, for single target, Infinite Stars is by far the best for most people. I mean, for like basically every class it is. And Infinite Stars rank 2, so like rank 3 is the best, rank 2 is the second best. Rank 1 isn't that great, but you really want one of those Infinite Stars, and I haven't gotten one yet. Not only have I not gotten one yet on my main character, I haven't got one on either of my 2 alts that I play pretty aggressively. As far as I do all my emissaries, I do like the Oldhim / Veil stuff on them. And, I still have not seen an Infinite Stars yet. I've seen basically everything else, including Gushing Wound, but I have not seen Infinite Stars yet. So that's pretty depressing. Obviously, I got Twilight Devastation. That drops 100% on one of the weapons in there. So you just have to get the weapon to drop, and you automatically get the Twilight Devastation 3. So I have seen that. I also have Twilight Dev on an alt as well. So that one wasn't as rare, but the Infinite Stars I just can't get to drop. So that's very depressing for me. So the very first thought is that this corruption system sucks. I can't compete with other people. We actually had a shaman in our guild get like the best parse on one of the bosses like in the world because he had just incredible Infinite Stars damage. It was like 19% of his total damage or something, which is just insane. And I'm not salty against him at all. That's actually a really cool thing to happen. But it just makes me wish that I had it. Not that I would be at the number 1, just from my class perspective. But just to be in that upper echelon of people and not being able to because of your corruption kind of sucks. That being said, without having Titan Forge socketed rings in previous patches, it was pretty hard as well. So it does work both ways. So here's where I've come to land on this. So my initial reaction was to be not liking it because it's just too much RNG. I haven't gotten it. I haven't gotten the thing that I need the most, at least for single target, which is what most bosses are. So my initial reaction is to hate it or just dislike it, whatever. I do have a way to fix it though, which I'll get to at the end. So where I've settled though is somewhere in the middle, of course, right? When you're trying to see both sides of things, you typically settle somewhere in the middle. So what I'll say is I typically have no Titan Forged gear, maybe one piece of Titan Forged gear, and whereas someone in my guild group even could have 2 Titan Forged socketed rings, 2 Titan Forged trinkets with sockets, 2 Titan Forged, just Titan Forged everywhere. Maybe half their gear is Titan Forged. And that's incredible and great for them. But when I only have one, that ends up being a pretty big power difference. 3% on a ring. Well, it's probably more than that with a socket too. But like, 5-10% here, 3% there, 2% there of power upgrades based on Titan forging adds up a lot. So what I do have though is I do have corruption, right? Because corruption drops fairly well. It should drop more, which I'll get into. But I do have some corruption. So while I don't have the Infinite Stars, which for Ret Paladin does rank 3 does like 11 to 12k DPS on a single target. I do have I use my Obsidian Skin, which isn't great, but it's decent for the corruption value that it has. Plus an Echoing Void. Again, not great anymore since the nerf, but the combination of the two is about, it's a little bit more than half of an Infinite Stars 3. So I'm only at like 50%, whatever. Whereas the Titan Forging, like if I only have one thing and someone else has six things, then I'm 1/6, 16%, right? About 16%. About 16% of them. So I'm technically doing better than I normally would during Titan Forging. I'm closer to the lucky people with corruption than I am to the lucky people with Titan Forging. And with just one Infinite Stars rank 3, I will then be equally as lucky as them, right? So it's definitely something that could happen as well. I also could, somehow pony up the gold on like a BOE that has Infinite Stars 3 on it, but I don't think I could afford that. So that is an option as well. So ways to fix this, way to make it better. First one would be just to increase the amount of items with corruption that drops. We can cleanse it off anyways, so let's just have more corruption drop. That gives us a better chance to get the thing that we need, and then we don't have to put any artificial systems into the game to fix it if the corruption level is high enough. Yes, it'll suck if you get like 100 corruption items on one character and none of them are the one you want. That would definitely suck, but at least you don't feel like, okay, am I going to get a piece of corruption this week? You'll know you're going to get something corrupted this week if the corruption drop rate was a lot higher, and so therefore you have another chance to get the piece that you want. Still not great because it's still heavily RNG, but it's a lot better than what it currently is, where I don't know what the corruption chance is exactly, but it's decent. But it could definitely be higher, especially because we can cleanse it off. So it could pretty much be as high as you wanted. You could have anything over, 460 automatically corrupt even or whatever. That's an option. Another thing is, and you could add this with that or have it separately, is an artificial system to where you use a currency to purchase a certain type of corruption that you then corrupt the gear with. Now, you would want this to be an expensive thing, because now you're taking the RNG out of it completely. So whether you use mementos, which is probably, since that's the new currency for this patch, that's probably what you would use. So you can add sockets with mementos, so you would be able to add a specific corruption with a memento. And then maybe, and that one's super expensive, and then you could add a random corruption to an item for slightly less mementos. So think of the Titan Residium. Is that even how you say it? Titan Residium system, right? So you can purchase a random shoulder and hope that you get your best in slot, or you can save up methodically and buy your best in slot shoulders. You could do the same thing with corruption, and I think the player base would be pretty happy with it, because overall, I think they're pretty happy with the Titan Residium system. And I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, by the way. It sounds silly, but I believe people are generally happy with it. Not everybody. Some classes don't even have good things from the vendor, so I understand that. But I think that would be a good way to fix it. Basically, mirror that system. So it's a system you already have. You just make it for something else as well. And then going forward in the game, obviously they're not going to have corruption. They said they're not going to have Titan Forging. It would really surprise me if they have nothing. But going forward, I think you either have to increase the amount of chances you have to get the proper itemization you need, or you need an artificial system like Titan Residium, how that works now, not how you can buy random or specific, and let people choose that way and build up to it, something to work for, a goal to work towards. And eventually then people can guarantee at some point at least they're going to have the gear that they want to have, with much work. And it's not like it's a legendary or something like that that should have a little bit of RNG in it. Like Ashes of Valar shouldn't be 100% drop rate, all that kind of stuff. I would never say that, but just something that you could work for, that you could eventually get your gear, because it's just your gear. It's not. It's like I said. It's not like some magical thing that's you're going to keep in your bank forever. You're eventually going to scrap this stuff or throw it away, whatever the system is. So yeah, that's my thoughts on fixing it. That's my thoughts on corruption. Please subscribe to the channel because that helps me out the most. And everybody have a good one.